In our busy world where everything is as fast as the speed of light, we struggle and hustle to be seen, to be a voice,
to be heard in the midst of noise.
Is the justice. We need to do what is right. And those who do not learn from history will only repeat the blunders of history till they become history.
One thing is certain, there's always something up. Leadership, culture, trends, politics, religion, education, hospitality, business. One focus every week. Stay updated on the matter.
Good evening and welcome to The Matter. My name is Otobasi Tom. It's a fresh edition and it promises to be very rewarding and also informative. So if you're yet to follow our page, kindly hit on the follow button and also share so that your friends can get to see this video. Alright, our platform gives everyday people an opportunity to lend a voice and discuss topical issues that cut across human interests. On the matter today, we'll be taking a look at the education system in Nigeria, the pros and the cons. But just before we get down into the business of the day, let's quickly take a look at these headlines that have made news over the week, carefully edited by our editorial team. Take a look. We're glad to have you back. And if you are not abreast with these stories, I strongly recommend that you read up on them so as to stay informed. Don't forget, if you're not informed, you might just be deformed. Such an overused cliche. But moving ahead, the education system, the pros and the cons. Exactly one day away from now, that is on Monday, 24th of April, the primary and the secondary school will reopen for third term activities. Now, this term usually sees the end of an academic session where thousands of young people, thousands of teenagers are sent forth into the larger society. But how equipped, how prepared are they to face the world leaving high school? We will be putting the educational system of Nigeria side by side with what is obtainable in developed countries. But just before then, this sector of education, the primary and the secondary, have been one of the most fortunate in Nigeria, I must say, because it has not been hit with incessant strike actions as compared to what is happening at the tertiary institutions. But how well has that worked for them? I think the major issue that knocked down this sector was the COVID-19 pandemic. So on this next one, let me quickly put you through on what happened in 2020.
While I was in school writing my exams, I heard about an outburst of a disease, let's say pandemic, a virus. I just thought it was just these normal viruses like Ebola and other stuff. Then I felt bad hearing that we are going to go home soon because we're not going to enjoy our social nights and other things as I'm in senior class. Then I heard from school that churches, that was a March, churches were closed down everywhere, markets, nobody goes outside again.
Naive. I guess most school children did not really understand the depth of what has befallen the world. It is clear they received the news with mixed feelings. What was assumed to be a temporary setback turned out to be the worst outbreak in human history.
I'm not happy. I felt bad.
I don't feel happy. I missed my school environment.
I miss half of my friends.
With realities gradually setting in, one thing is certain: school children are bored at home. They need urgent attention to get back to school.
And still, this coronavirus, I'm not yet finished. I'm missing so many of my friends, and I pray that let this coronavirus have a cure so that we can go back to school.
How far can this take a country with a population of about 200 million people? In 2016, Nigeria ranked 171st among nations investing in healthcare and education, a drop from the 1990 ranking of 155, leaving one to wonder what will be the stand of our educational system after the pandemic. With the classrooms abandoned for so long, the infrastructure in the school environment is a nightmare. This clearly signifies a drop in our educational system.
My name is Aaron Bonantis. I'm a student of I'm a student. First time the lockdown, I was happy that I won't go to school that much and so on. But after 1 month, everything became clear. House was boring, nothing but that I actually miss going this weekend, something like that. I always say I was isolated from people and stuff. Most of all, no university.
Even though primary education is free and compulsory, about 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 were not in school. Only 61% of 6 to 18 years old regularly attend schools, and about 36% of children under 36 to 59 months received early childhood education. Will the pandemic further worsen an already bad situation? Some think it's a 50-50 chances.
My name is Mr. Joe Mike Udofio.
All right. I would like to find out, as a teacher, do you think the lockdown will have any effects on the academic performance of students in school?
Of course, the lockdown has effects to the students locked down at home. Many of the students that cannot read without the guide of the teachers. Many of their parents are unconcerned about them. So they may stay at home and play. Education, as we understand, is a continuous process. So many of them will stay at home, play, forgetting about the reading, the studies. That's why they're affected. And many, of course, are affected in time that they should progress. Before now, many students, they will write their promotion exams to a new class. So all those things they lose during this period of COVID-19. So that's how the COVID-19 affects us.
As a parent, what have you done as an individual? You have children, as a person who has children in school, to assist your children to move forward in terms of academics?
Actually, as a teacher, for my children, I take them for tutorial lessons. Even at home, I give them an assignment. I don't allow them to play too much. I know works without play makes Jack a dull boy. Allow them to play for a short time, and I give them something to do so as to ignite them on studies.
It might be quite easy for someone like you who is a civil servant, if I may say so. How about parents who are traders in the market, and most likely they'll use those children for domestic purposes? They will have to go home, maybe sell so that they could make ends meet. What do you have to say? What's your opinion towards that? How can those sets of children be assisted to go along in terms of academics?
Well, at many homes now, many teachers are organizing studies. Also, they went into some houses and approached the parents. Mostly those parents that are traders, farmers. So we may go in and approach them so that we tell them the need for their kids or what to be to have a lesson within this period.
Okay, what has been the attitude of parents with regards to responding to home lessons?
Well, the attitude of parents to their children in this COVID-19 time are very poor. I may say it's with reasons. Most of the parents are very happy this time because they are taking their kids, their children to the markets so that they can help them. Some of them take them to the farm. They're forgetting that education is the best rock or is the best legacy, I may say it. So most of them are using this kit. They don't care about studies, they don't care about education. They are even praying that let's...
Sadly, 2 years after the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nigerian secondary and primary school system is still faced with the same problems: poor infrastructure, unreviewed curriculum, and so many other factors that have run down the education system in this particular
and has
area.
catapulted
And
its
graduating
educational
unprepared
system
teenagers into
into
the
the
larger
top
society.
range in the
Let's take
world.
a look at what is obtainable in developed countries and what is working for them.
21st century learning has gone global. Today's youth will be competing with students all over the world as it continues to shrink. What schools produce today will affect the country's economy tomorrow. So it is not just important, but also a necessity that we give importance to education reforms in our country. Our curriculum standards need to stand up to other emerging countries on a global platform. Like Kelvin asked, are we doing enough to prepare our students to effectively compete in a tough global economy and be prepared for the 21st century? What are some of the best educational systems in the world today? There are many research findings on the education system around the world that forces us to think about how we impact education to our students. The few countries that dominate conversations of good educational system are Finland, South Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Let's take a deep dive into the educational system of these countries and understand what is working in their favor. In South Korea, the main focus of the education is primary education. They make a good start with students, which carries them through the rest of their educational life. The students are known to go to school 7 days a week. South Korea spends 8% of its GDP on education as compared to a 6% average of other OECD participating countries. Culturally, there is high emphasis placed on education. Parents are very involved and are willing to spend a lot of money to get their children the education they need. Teachers have to be high qualified and are also paid good salaries. It is one of the coveted career choice in South Korea. Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. All three systems have a technology-based educational structure. They are also similar to South Korea in the fact that their main focus is also primary education and they spend a good percentage of their GDP on education. The primary, secondary, and higher education levels are exemplary in their approach and work. Student retention is a common practice. The education system has moved instruction further away from the rote memorization and repetitive tasks on which it had originally focused to deep conceptual understanding and problem-based learning. The Singapore Ministry of Education recent policies of teach less and learn more is highly popular and has catapulted its educational system into the top range in the world. Finland, although a top runner in the past, it is losing grounds to its Asian counterpart. Regardless, Finland still figures in the top 10 performing countries in the world. School does not begin for children until they are 7 years old. There is no homework and no standardized testing until they reach high school. They have shorter school days. All schools follow a national curriculum. Schools and teachers spend less time in schools in comparison to their American counterpart. Finland also provides 3 years of maternity leave, subsidized daycare, and preschool for 5 to 7 years old, where the emphasis is on playing and socializing. Canada. In the last few years, Canada has been a surprise entry into the top 10 educational system, surprising many. Their system is very simple. They focus on three main parts: literacy, math, and high school graduation. With a clear vision, they have created a transparent system in collaboration with administrators, teachers, and the union to create a curriculum and methodology that is successful. The system encourages teamwork, quality education, continued teacher training, transparent results, and a culture of sharing best practices. The teacher morale is also high because their pay is acceptable. Working conditions are favorable, facilities are good, and there are all kinds of opportunities for teachers to improve their practice. Most importantly, perhaps, there is discretion for teachers to make their own judgments.
Wow. This is every person, every parent's dream to have their children access the best and the most quality education that can be offered the world over. But with the way the Nigerian education system is structured, there seems to be no clear-cut objective as what is to be achieved after the secondary school education. The private schools are doing a lot in terms of equipping these young people, but a greater majority of Nigerians who are in public schools are left out, not forgetting those who are still not able to go to school. What can be done to solve this issue? Let's listen to an expert who is actually making recommendations on what should be
in Nigeria.
We are going to look into the topic that says protecting schools in Nigeria. Who can now give me her own opinion?
Despite the COVID-19 pandemic and security challenges, we recognize the value of education, and so we do not want to miss out on it.
We need the governments, community leaders, and also the security agency to work together to keep our schools safe.
The government must assure our parents that they will keep us safe and we will get quality education in a safe environment.
We have heard you. There are a number of assurances that we can give to parents, guardians, and the public as relates to security in our schools. One is the provision of infrastructure. Perimeter wall fencing of schools are improved. Hostel wall fencing are improved. In most of our boarding secondary schools, there are security personnel available. But in the primary school here, we ensure that the guardsmen are on.
We are parents, we have children, and that is why we are assuring you of your safety and security. We have an outpost, we have erected nipping down points where our policemen are going to be stationed to protect these schools.
Aside from insecurity, there is also COVID-19.
The impact of COVID-19 in our daily lives has also affected our schooling in the sense that we have prolonged closure of schools, which leads to loss of time in learning and other academic pursuits.
We sat down at the management meeting, we arranged in order to decongest classes. Now we have two shifts, that is morning and the afternoon shift, so that at least the congestion of this will be reduced.
We have fumigated all our schools at the resumption. We've been able to put the COVID-19 protocol in place. Wash hand facilities were procured and distributed to schools.
Our schools protect us from COVID-19.
We wear face masks, wash our hands or use hand sanitizers.
We observe social distancing.
They warn us not to share face masks.
We avoid overcrowd.
And any student found sick is required to stay at home. They teach us the symptoms of COVID-19 and how to prevent ourselves from COVID-19.
Dear mothers and fathers, set aside your fears and allow your children return to schools. Our future depends on our education. You see these women, they are women who have succeeded in their career. We admire them and we want to be like them.
Mun gaji da zama a gida, muna so mu koma makaranta.
Regardless of where a child lives or how much money their parents has, all children have the right to quality education within a safe learning environment.
It is a collective effort to ensure that we equip our children to be able to compete favorably with other children in the globe. But be that as it may, it falls on governments to make the environment favorable. Teachers need to be paid, and also whatever factor is okay. Wow, let's take a look at what some personalities have spoken about the education system in Nigeria and some recommendations that they have made to ensure that we get our education system structured in such a way that it will become beneficial to people and also beneficial to the country at large. That is how far we can take on the show today. Kindly hit the follow button if you're yet to follow our page, and also share so that a lot of people can get to see this information and policymakers can get a tip as to what to do and how to move our education system forward. That's our show for today. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. Thank you very much for viewing our program. But we'll be back next week, Saturday, 7:45 p.m. for another fresh edition of the show. My name is Otobasi Tom. Thank you for watching.